What is that single biggest challenge that the hotels have to engage their teams to sell more?
Room blocking kills an upsell program. So it is not asking someone if they want something. It's not pushing them to buy something. It's not pestering them. It's as simple as, well, frontline work, one thing that I learned is that they're a lot more important to enterprises than they're often given credit for. I think of leadership as the inverted pyramid. It's not people serving me, it's me serving our team to enable them to do great work, right? AI should be used to enhance and enable human performance, not replace it. I'll give you one thing that if you could take away from this, that if you could teach your teams, they will get a better result.
What's up, hospitality? In a world where hotel profits are increasingly being squeezed by inflation, labor costs, and tax pressure, upselling has shown to have a highly positive impact in the bottom line, staff morale, and decreasing staff turnover. Hi, everyone. I am Mauricio Schuler, and you are listening to the Talking Hospitality podcast by the Schulering Hub. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Geoffrey Toffetti from Frontline Performance Group, a training platform helping more than 2,500 hotels around the world to boost revenue and service of the front desk. Today, you'll learn about Geoffrey's personal journey from hotel valet to CEO of one of the biggest hospitality training companies in the world, and how upselling drove his career upwards. What is the single biggest challenge a hotel face to engage their teams in selling more? And what solutions he learned from more than 2,500 hotels that you may be able to apply as well. And if you hang on until the end, Geoffrey will share a framework that you can apply tomorrow at your hotel and see results. Geoffrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And you start your hospitality career as a valet, and today you lead a company training hotel staff in more than 2,500 hotels worldwide to boost profits. What did that experience teach you about frontline work, and how did it shape your leadership style?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, frontline work, one thing that I learned is that they're a lot more important to enterprises than they're often given credit for. There's a statistic, something like 70% of the GDP of the United States flows through the front line. They are the ambassador of your brand. They are the interaction with your guest. It all comes through the front line. And recognizing that, being someone who thrived in the front line and was an upseller, I moved to the front desk and I became very good at upselling. It got me promoted. I got promoted twice, and both times I had to take a pay cut because I was outperforming the boundaries that HR had set for how much I should be making. But yeah, so it cemented in my mind the impact that each individual person can have on the overall culture, on the guest experience, on your brand. And I've taken that with me, at every step as I've climbed up. I've never lost sight of the impact and importance of the front line. As a leader, I think of leadership as the inverted pyramid. It's not people serving me, it's me serving our team to enable them to do great work, right? So I've always kept that front and center in my leadership philosophy.
That's great. And you mentioned about taking pay cuts, right? And I thought that really interesting because basically when we are working, we work for better payment. So if you want to get a promotion, you are expecting to get a better payment. So what drove you to make that choice to actually accept a pay cut when you're getting promoted?
Yes, you're right. From a salary or base pay standpoint, I was making a little more, but in total compensation, I wasn't, because there was the variable component, which is why I was making so much money. Yeah, I mean, as someone early on, the leader, the general manager at the time, who was very young and running a $50 million company at the time, he said, think of the difference in pay as an investment, a down payment on your future. You can stay a valet or a front desk agent forever and make that same amount of money, or you can give up that variable component, take the lower salary, but put yourself on a leadership track. So that's what I did. And I actually, ironically, when I left the hotel world, I took a pay cut to join a startup. So I've taken 3 pay cuts in my life to advance my career. It hasn't happened recently, thank God, except for maybe COVID, but it worked. I was young. I had no responsibilities. It was a perfect time to just follow the opportunity, not chase the money. And you hear successful people say this all the time. If you're chasing money, you'll never have it. You got to be chasing something bigger. And that's what I was trying to do. I was just trying to forge a path forward where I could grow.
And what did really drive you to sell more? What's the motivation there, and what did you learn in that process?
Well, once I went to as a valet and a bellman, you're always kind of on stage and you're trying to sell them an experience, so they'll give you a tip. So it's sort of innately a sales position if you're good at it. So when I went to the front desk, I was thinking, okay, now I'm not going to be able to use my skills anymore to generate more money. But then they said, no, we have a commission for upsell and walk-in. If you sell a walk-in, you get a commission. So that immediately became the whole center of my world. Is I would do more check-ins than anyone else because more opportunities. I would take the arrival manifest that used to be on greenboard paper. I don't know if anyone listening remembers the greenboard printers, but I would actually cut out the arrivals and put together the people coming in on travel vouchers because they were the ones who had paid months ago. And I knew that they had booked the lowest room. So they were the perfect people to enjoy a better room or a view of the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America now. So I was constantly strategizing all day, every day, how to maximize my upsells. There was no one helping me though. It was very much just me doing it. And then when I got promoted, the other front desk agents were like, hey, you can't do upsells anymore. Will you help me? So I was then put together a whole system. I got the rooms blocking coordinator on. I gave them a commission so that they would help the front desk. We just built an entire program ourselves. And then I left from that job and left hospitality.
It's incredible how sometimes it's just that drive that move us towards doing something better because we have a mission, we want to achieve something, and that drives us to do some spectacular things, right? And I see that hotels, mainly independent hotels that we speak to, they understand that upselling will affect their bottom line. So they try to push their staff to do that, right? That's their goal. But how to do that, it's a knowledge that it's not freely acquired through air, right?
That's right.
So if we would think like from these 2,500 hotels that you've been working with right now, what is that single biggest challenge that the hotels have to engage their teams to sell more?
Single biggest, I think it's two sides of the issue. One is the leader of the property, the general manager, making it an expectation of the role. So it's not, you're a front desk agent, will you please try to upsell more? No, it's, we expect you to upsell. So you're hiring, when you're interviewing people, it's part of the job. That's the biggest thing that is in their own way. They don't know that you can actually set that as an expectation. The other is the culture. So if you think about front desks agents, except for the ones that work with us, they probably did not think of themselves as salespeople when they were hired. They think, oh, I have to be nice and I have to go through the steps of the check-in process as dictated by AAA or Forbes or whoever, and I just need to do it accurately and I need to maybe smile. They're not thinking I'm a revenue generator, right? So the culture has to change. So it starts with the leadership saying, okay, we're doing this and this is an expectation. And then it's the department level leadership making it part of the culture where you talk about it in your pre-shifts, where you bring in people like us to help, where you get them educated and you set some standards. You know, there should be a minimum that a front desk agent is allowed not to sell. You know, a small little independent boutique, maybe it's $500 a month that they need to do. If it's a giant resort, maybe it's 10,000. But there needs to be some kind of expectation and standard to bolster the culture that this is important. It is part of my job. Because that's what we hear a lot is I wasn't hired to do that. And it's true, they weren't hired to do that. So that has to change. And that's the hardest thing to getting to a really, really good result.
Change mindset's always very complicated. When I was preparing for this conversation and doing my research, I found an article from Hospitality Net that mentioning that a luxury hotel in New York that boosted their profits by $1 million in 1 year, adding to their like $9 to the ADR, to the average daily rate, only through upselling. However, when it comes through Cornell University, they really warn that over incentivizing pure revenue can backfire because it harms the guest experience, as the front line, the front desk, they are trying too hard, right? So when it comes to this challenge of leadership, what are the two solutions that you've seen there that can really help hotels to solve that problem and engage more with the staff in upselling?
Yeah, so I would agree with the Cornell sentiment only in the absence of a defined program. If you are pressuring front desk agents to sell, but you're not giving them boundaries, then yeah, they could get into unethical behavior. They could be pushy and all that. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a much more sophisticated approach to this. So that example, $1 million, $9 of ADR is very good. I mean, but it's not the best. There's much better than that. There are resorts we work with that are doing $1 million a month. So you can get to a much higher level. Now, you're not going to fatigue your guests, because the approach that we advocate for, and anyone listening, you can do this yourself, but we call it service-based sales. So it is not asking someone if they want something. It's not pushing them to buy something. It's not pestering them. It's as simple as observing your guest, having a very brief conversation, which is advocated in the standards of AAA and Forbes, is that you should build rapport with your guests. Now, in that little spot in there is where our process lives. When you're building rapport, you're finding out why they're there, who they're with, is there a special occasion, all of these things. So once you know that information, it sounds something like this. Because you're traveling with your family and you booked a double room, I recommend a junior suite so you have a little bit more room to spread out, and it has a balcony. Did that sound pushy? No, it sounds like I'm trying to help you. And that's exactly what we teach them. You have to be in service to your guest. You're only offering them an enhancement that will improve their experience. So the stance of Cornell that it could undermine service is the exact opposite of what actually happens when you do it well. You actually increase your service, you increase your brand loyalty, and you increase revenue, and the employee makes more money, so they stay. Your top performers are making so much money. I mean, we work with front desk agents that are six-figure earners. So they're not going to leave. They're going to continue to treat your guests great, and your guests are going to have better and better experience.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying this show and if you're learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat. So that's very good advice. That's very good. And when it comes to this volume of help, right? Helping 2,500 hotels around the world, it seems like an operational nightmare. But you guys being from some changes to be able to do that. So how can you maintain that engagement and performance without being physically present in the hotel as your consulting once you leave happens with the hotel performance? If there's any change in performance, and how can you solve that?
Yeah, so we went through a complete metamorphosis during COVID. We used to be a training company. Your description in the opening is partly true. We are a training company, but we provide digital training at this point. So we used to go on site at properties, and for those listening, you can imagine we used to send people into the environment. They would stand behind the front desk. They would go elbow to elbow with the agents. They would actually do check-ins and demonstrate the right way to do this. So we have very deep real world knowledge of what works, what doesn't, and how the front desk operates. So during COVID, we had to take our technology platform, which we had already built much of it, and we had to turn it around so that clients could serve themselves. We were using it more internally. And we took all of our training and we digitized it into digital training content, video training, it's all our stuff. We took all the tools that we had built in the technology and unified them into a platform. So what when we work with a hotel, we give them the platform, and the platform is everything they need to do what I'm describing. All the training is there. We will do some virtual instructor-led training at the very beginning to kickstart the program. But then what we do is we invest in the champion. The champion is the person that at the property is directly responsible for upsell revenue. It's usually a front desk manager. We invest in them. So we're developing them. There's training content for them. There's incentives for them to empower them to do what we used to do. And what we have found is they're getting better results than they did when we used to go on site, because it's a consistent part of their internal culture. And we're developing the champion to a higher degree so that they are then competent to coach and mentor and train the front desk agents to be able to do it properly.
That's fantastic. And when it comes to online course, a lot of people report that there is no engagement. That's really hard to keep the engagement high. And when it comes to adult learning as well, we always need to find that motivation that will keep them motivated to really go and look for the course, right? They need to be interested in learning, right? The what's in it for me, right?
That's right.
And how do you do that? Is through these champions that you manage to do that, or there is any other strategy that you can put in place?
Well, we provide a framework to the properties that are basic. It's basically the checklist. If you do these things, you will get a great result. One of them is getting the agents into the content. We have a couple of recommended courses for like right out of the bat, but there's a vast library. So what happens is the training engagement, I agree. When you go do some online training for cybersecurity or whatever, it's really boring and hard to get through and all that. We've constructed ours to be snippet level, often irreverent and a bit funny, a little sometimes a little cheeky, even a little cringy, just so that it stays interesting. But we're not teaching them how to launch rockets. You know, we're teaching them some fairly fundamental stuff. And to get engagement, you need credibility. So if they take the training and it positively impacts their life, they're going to come back and take more training. If they take the training and it seems like a complete waste of their time and they never apply it, then you might lose engagement. But what's great is because there's a commission, there's an incentive. They take the training, they make more money. They're more likely to take more training, right? So it's a positive feedback loop. And we just encourage the champions. I mean, we can't control what happens, but we encourage the champions to just play videos in their stand-up huddle. We have videos built specifically for them to hit play, and it's like 2 minutes long, and it reminds the entire team of a certain skill or to be mindful of a certain aspect of what we're doing. So it is a struggle, but once it provides value, it's self-realizing.
And look, our audience, we normally try to speak to independent hoteliers because we feel that they struggle a little bit more than the ones that have the support of corporates, of standards behind them, of all the resources that can be put in them, right? And if I am a hotel manager for an independent hotel right now, trying to learn and apply this in thinking like, yeah, that works for resorts, that will work for luxury companies in New York, but doesn't apply to me. How would you maybe help them with like three actionable steps that they could take, apply tomorrow, and start to see results from them?
Perfect. Yes. And we work with a lot of independent hotels, often managed by a third-party management company, but they function independently. So we get completely what you're saying. So aside from hiring us, that would be the first thing I would recommend. But aside from that, do it yourself. There's a couple of things that I would recommend. One is room blocking. So room blocking kills an upsell program. And this is how. If you are overselling in a lower room type, which is a normal practice, and we advocate for it, absolutely. But if come to the day and you get nervous and you start taking people from the oversold standard room and putting them into better rooms to balance the house, you're taking away your own inventory to sell. So don't do that. Do it when only you have someone who's booked a room and you've got to lock them in, and we get all that. But if you just have people booking your standard room and you have a few deluxe rooms and it makes you feel better to block them so that the house looks nice and even, don't do that. Get your front desk to sell into those deluxe rooms. And then come toward the end of the day when maybe you're running out of rooms, you do what you have to do to operate. But the beginning or the night before, don't kill your inventory with room blocking. The other is have an incentive. We advocate for a 3-tier incentive. Reason being, the people who are driving the revenue results should be earning more than the people who are basically being asked by the guest and then selling them an upsell. So it's 3 tiers, 5, 10, 15%, and you just set revenue thresholds that will be meaningful and material to your property. So I can't tell you what they are because it depends on a lot of things, but it might be, the first 1,000's 5%, the next 2,000 is 10%, so on. And then you have to teach them how to do it. So I'll give you one thing that if you could take away from this, that if you could teach your teams, they will get a better result. And I did it earlier. It's recommend, don't ask. Don't ask closed-ended questions. Don't ask yes or no questions. Make a recommendation. Even if you're not very sophisticated enough to say, because you're with your family, I recommend. Just say, I recommend a better room. That sounds a lot better than would you like a better room? Because it also, the front line, if you convert 7% of your arrivals, you're doing really well. Okay, so we're not talking 50%. We're talking single-digit percentages. But that means you're going to hear no 93% of the time. So if you ask closed-ended questions, you're going to get a lot of hard no's. No, no, no. If you make a recommendation, they tend to ask a follow-up question like, well, how much is it? Or, where is it on the property? Or what else does it come with? So it's conversational. And then if they decide not to do it, you're not getting a hard rejection. So the front desk agents are much more likely to continue to do it. So those would be my 3 things. Don't kill your inventory with room blocking. Have a good incentive, but make it tied to your result as well. Don't make it too lucrative at the bottom. And then give them the basic knowledge that don't ask, recommend.
That are great 3 steps and simple to apply. Very, very happy with these ones. And we're moving towards a world that nobody knows how it looks like. Right. It's really hard even as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, to try to foresee the next 2 years and forecast anything. Basically, it's almost impossible because we don't know the impact that technology will have to not only business, but to society in general. We just don't know. And it's kind of a hard moment in history. I don't think that we've ever been in such a moment in history.
Probably not, no.
And so when it comes to AI and how present they are in hotel operations today, do you believe that the front desk will have as AI sales being driven by AI, or the front desk will be teaching AI how to perform better? Where AI gets to this mix? What's your ideas on that?
It's a great question, and obviously, very top of mind for us. So the position that we're taking is AI should be used to enhance and enable human performance, not replace it, particularly in hospitality, because we're nowhere near replacing the front desk agents. That's a fantasy right now. But what we can do is we can use AI to reach the individual in a more natural way, to help them understand what is going on in their little world of what they're doing and what they could do to enhance their own performance and make more money. So that's where we're investing our research dollars is how do we deploy AI in a way that will help a champion be more effective with their team, that will help a front desk agent, or because we work in restaurants too, so we could be talking about servers and bartenders as well. How do they get feedback that is timely and simple to understand and applicable to them on a personal level? That is where I think AI can be deployed enterprise-wide in any company. It's not easy to do. I mean, we're still not a place where there's off-the-shelf technology you can just plug and play. You have to have a tech team to deploy this stuff. But the position we're taking is AI should enhance, not undermine people, and internally as well. We're trying to figure out how can we make the lives of our teams better or easier or more efficient, let them their jobs expand into more, but because they're being assisted by AI. But it is going to be hugely disruptive in certain areas in certain sectors. There is no question. Where I think it's going to hit first is the really expensive white collar professions, because the replacement value is so high. So you hear people talking about coding, obviously, that I think it's going to look completely different a couple of years from now. But even like accounting, qualified CPA is an expensive employee. A front desk agent is not in the grand scheme of things, right? So I think what we're going to find is the white collar expensive roles are the ones that are going to be undermined first because the ROI is so high to replace them. If you wanted to replace a front desk agent with a robot, you're still spending 100 grand. It's not like you pull them out, put them in, you got a 3-to-1 ROI. But it might be in certain roles, it could be a 10-to-1 ROI. So I think that's where we're going to see it. This is the first industrial revolution in human history that is going to undermine the thinking class, not the labor class first. So it's a really weird place to be. We are in the turning point of history right now. And I say to business leaders all the time, if you're not using AI tools that are available online, if you're not educating yourself daily, you're already falling behind because it's moving that fast.
It's impressive. Yesterday, I was listening to the Diary of a CEO, the podcast, and they were talking about ways to sell, really, right? That this is the core, like how to improve revenue. And they are saying that AI is already outperforming salespeople, the general salespeople, in about 35%, because just the clarity of how they speak and the tonality as well. I have an accent and I know how hard it is to make people understand me. And just because of the tonality and the speed of speaking and the clarity that AI can perform, it's already outperforming a third of salespeople around the world right now, only 2 years after LLM has been released, right?
Right.
And this is where we have staff resistance to sell because they were not hired for that. And on the other side, you have AI coming in and outperforming people, right? Mm-hmm. How do we hold general managers and owners to just say, no, just deploy AI because they will solve all our problems?
Yeah. So I would be curious. I'd have to listen to that. I'd be curious what exactly he means by outselling. If he's talking about, digital marketing and that kind of thing, or B2C, that might make sense. I don't think AI could outsell my top salespeople in a B2B relationship driven sale. Not yet, anyway. I mean, you need like a robot for that. And I don't think I wouldn't want to have a sales launch with a robot, right? So I think there is this sort of fantasy angle that's taking hold. And we're kind of, I'm an AI optimist, and I'm definitely aware of what it's capable of. But in some cases, like I would prefer to see, and I think Salesforce is doing this pretty well, is enable salespeople, partner them with an AI agent that can draft their emails, that can read their email, that can, make them more responsive and do all that stuff. But when it comes to getting on the phone and talking to a human being, I don't think people want to talk to AI yet. But so I think if tools are built like what we're trying to do that give hoteliers a toolkit that they can use to improve the performance of their people, and because you don't want to take people out of hospitality. You're no longer giving an experiential service if there's not a human being there to serve. That's my belief. So you don't want to go to a hotel and there's no human beings there. I think that would be creepy. And I think most people feel the same way. But we got to leverage the power of AI to improve our ability to perform and our margins and all of those things. You can do that in a hotel by selling more things to your guests. So you don't have to replace. It's the expense versus revenue mindset. So let's use it to drive revenue. Let's not use it to reduce expense.
That's great. And if you were that young valet again today, 2025, what would you focus on learning to stay relevant in hospitality for the next 10 years then?
I would hone your people skills, because every single thing that you're going to try to do in hospitality that will advance your career requires you to be a very nuanced people person. It's true in any leadership. The thing that like business schools, I think still fail to do is teach people or help them develop their ability to be influential and do it in a kind and diplomatic way, but be direct. Those kind of things you can hone as a valet, because you're interacting with all walks of people, all strata of the economy, all cultures, especially if you're in a first destination. So use that time to master the ability to interact with people. And you're immediately given feedback by if they tip you or not. Now, there are some cultures that never tip. I mean, you can't really gauge by that. But generally speaking, you know if you did a good job, because they're going to tell you right away. So gauge your tips not as your primary objective, gauge it as your feedback from the guest if you're doing a good job or not. Learn your tone of voice, learn how to mirror them. All these things that you'll hear about in sales books and things is all present in the valet job.
That's awesome, Geoffrey. If you could leave a message to our hoteliers listening to the episode, what would be that positive message to them?
It would be that I think you're in the best industry in the world. You create experiences for people, even a one-night business traveler. There's something magical about going to a hotel. I get to go to a lot of them, obviously, but some people, they only get to stay in a hotel once or twice a year, maybe even every other year. It really can be, you can create magic for people. And if you invest in your team, if you make it part of the expectation that they are going to offer an enhancement. It's not an upsell. It's an enhancement. You're going to enhance the guest experience every time they check in. You can generate a very significant amount of revenue relative to your operation that can be reinvested into the hotel or into the team. So it could, front desk revenue could fund CapEx to make better experiences to create front desk revenue. I mean, we have hotels that have like doubled their cabanas at their pool because the front desk is selling them. So you create a whole new dynamic for yourself where if your front desk is going to sell something that you give them to sell, then your wheels start turning. Okay, what else could we do at this property? Could we have a more interesting dining experience? Could we? And you're not left wondering, will people buy it? Because your front desk is going to sell it.
That's awesome. Geoffrey, that was a great chat. Thank you so much for allowing the time to come and have this chat with me. I hope that you enjoy the experience as much as I did.
I did. It's been a great conversation. I love talking about hospitality and upsell.
Such a great industry, isn't it? Schulering, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I hope to see you next week again. See you later. Bye.
Bye.